Studies and information will not let you get out of doing hard work in the gym. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. I thought I would chat with you guys and gals a little bit about this today. And this is one of those things, this is one of the problems we do run into in the evidence-based side of the fitness and lifting world. And this is something I have seen repeatedly pointed out for decades. And when we say this, it doesn't mean that it's universally true. I want to be clear, it does not mean it is universally true. It means there is a strong tendency for it to be true, with obviously quite a few exceptions. But you see this a lot. You see tons of people who just quite frankly don't have significant muscle, don't have significant strength, and yet they themselves have thrown huge portions of their life into lifting and fitness. Professionally, or as people who are influencers and outreach. And we see this routine. There are people who follow a lot of these people. What I've oftentimes known, many of them don't really get results, but they spend hours and hours hanging up on data. Now, that being said, do I think we should know the data? Yes. Do I keep up with the wide variety of scientific literature in these areas? Of course I do. I don't think it's a be-all, end-all. I think exercise science as it pertains to muscle growth and hypertrophy and body composition is very incomplete. I think the studies themselves oftentimes lack the reach that they need. In other words, it's hard to draw too many meaningful conclusions from studies done 10 weeks long that had 16 test subjects, okay? Right? In most fields of science, that would be laughed at. Right, it would be laughed at. And I'm not saying we can't draw any patterns or conclusions. I want to be clear. But to act like there's any definitive information, no. We can sometimes spot, a few patterns. And I think that we should, and we should look for that. I mean, some stuff we can measure, obviously. Right, we've seen many studies that essentially just confirmed what people have known since the 50s and 60s in the gym, right? Perfect examples of stuff like on tricep growth when comparing bench press with, what order we do them in, bench press versus extensions, doing the big movement, then the extension and vice versa. Like generally speaking, you should do your big movements and your small movements, right? People figured this out 60, 70 years ago. They figured out really quickly, it just works better, okay? And studies have confirmed that. But there have been people who believe otherwise and try to do otherwise. But, historically, people just kind of found it worked better. And then in the lab, we tested it and found, it actually usually works better in most cases, right? So it makes sense. But outside of patterns like that, where we've had some studies that kind of say, it looks like these guys in the 50s already kind of had this figured out. Yep. Right, we get that stuff, and those are certainly useful for spotting those things. And again, we can say that fairly definitively because decades of anecdote showed something, and you do a couple of studies that look at it, they match the anecdote. At that point, we can more or less move on and say we probably don't need to waste more time with this. We don't need a 2-year-long study with 1,000 test subjects for this one. We probably don't. This little small study kind of matched exactly what we saw in the real world. Now, had it not matched it, then we might kind of go, well, this might warrant some further studies. Okay, but the point here, people are always looking for these biohacks to get around working hard because a lot of these evidence-based guys don't train hard. And I've noticed a lot of their followers, it seems like, again, people are hoping that they could just simply be more cerebral and that they can they're not looking for, hey, how can I make the best gains? That's the problem. A lot of people start looking at this data, they don't truly like to train hard. They don't like to train hard. So, what do? They're like, let's see if I can find an easy way that works, right? Because they're not in it going, hey, looking at these studies that found that, hey, if I do this, it produces the best possible results. No. That's not what they're looking for. They're not happy about, we found a study that shows doing more volume, if you take everything to failure, just causes more muscle growth. They definitely don't want to see that. That's not what they're looking for. They're not looking for a study that says 20 sets to muscle failure work really well. No. They want to see could I do 20 sets with 4 or 5 reps in reserve? That's what they're looking for. Okay. They want easier. What's the optimal number of sets that if I put in one more set, it probably won't cause any growth? That's what they're looking for. They're trying to find the way to do the least work and the least effort. Now, I'm not saying that's a wrong approach because it makes sense. Well, you don't want to waste time. But the reality, people who really want results are probably going to come in and work really hard. They're going to work really hard. And what do you usually find? The people who do that, people who don't get everything perfect, but they just train really hard. They train really hard. They eat really hard. They sleep well. Eat whole foods, lots of protein. But they train really, really hard. They tend to get pretty good results, particularly if they do it long enough. Even if you look at it and go, well, they could probably have a better approach. They still do better than the guys who look for these optimal approaches, who are lazy. And a lot of them think that they train hard. They really do. They really do think that they train hard. I mean, the muscle got a little bit of a pump and burn. They quit that, terminate that set right there. Well, I did some cheat reps. It must be training hard. Right? But they're not training hard. They don't ever do anything to failure. Not even close. But therein lay the problem. You don't have to train to failure. You don't have to train failure. Not a requirement. It should probably be fairly close. Right? You should be pretty dang close, though. That last rep better be pretty hard. Okay? So, they do that, but they don't want to train hard. They're hoping they can find a shortcut. And the reality, it doesn't work. Even if they find their optimal shortcut, it still won't work as well as the guy who just trains hard. And a lot of these studies, I feel like they do test it that way. Right? They're just looking for, can we get this done with the least work? And you look at a lot of the researchers who are involved. It's like, well, let's just do endless volume and nothing with hard sets. Then we don't have to work. It's a higher time commitment, right? Or even more so. Well, we're trying to find, where does the diminished returns happen even if we leave 3 reps in reserve? Now we're just getting lazy. What's the least amount of volume you could do while still staying pretty far from failure? But that's the stuff these people are looking for. And unfortunately, it's just not going to work, and it doesn't work. Doesn't work. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.